first I will give you some small introduction because you have not had any touch in programming. You have done programming quite some time before. So I'll give you some small brief about structured programming, and Python programming is purely object oriented. So you should know the difference between structured programming and structured programming. Structured programming. Now, what do you mean by structured programming? We follow something called as divide and approach method. Divide and approach method, very, very important. So what is this divide and approach method is, see, why do you write a program? You basically write a program to solve a problem. In any language, what we do is we take a problem. First we will understand the problem. Then what we will do is we will divide that into sub-problem. Where is the sub-problem? Then what we will do, we will identify a solution to this sub-problem. So when we have identified solution to this sub-problem and this sub-problem, we would have identified the solution to the problem. This is called divide and approach. In your this one also, day-to-day work, if your machine is not working, if any one machine is not working, how will you tackle to solve the problem? First you will find whether electric connection is proper or not, and you will go to the next stage. If that is okay, you will go to the next stage. So what you are trying to do, you are trying to do divide and conquering the problem. This is the methodology what we followed in C program by the use of functions. We call it as functions. I'll write one small program and show you, then you'll understand, by use of functions. Okay, and C programming followed top-down approach. C programming followed top-down approach. If you remember, there was one function called main. You had opening brackets and closing brackets. You had lines of code written here. This is called top-down approach. It starts from top, it goes till bottom. So these are the three things which you need to know in structured programming. In structured programming, we follow divide and approach method. Divide and approach method means every problem will have sub-problems. Sub-problem is again further broken down into sub-problems. Each sub-problem will have a solution. The solution to a sub-problem can be through a function. So the approach it follows is called as a top-down approach. But later on what happened, people found a lot of problems in structured programming. There are a lot of problems, and one major problem in such structured programming is security. There is no security of your data in structured programming. So what people did was they came out with a new type of programming called OOPS. It's called as Object Oriented Programming System. Object Oriented Programming System. Now, which were the languages which supported Object Oriented Programming System? The first language which supported was C++. Then you have Java. C structured programming. C was called structured programming. So what happens from the structured programming, they move to object oriented programming. You have something called as Python. Now, what you are going to learn? Python. Then you have R. Then you have C#. JavaScript. All these are object-oriented programming. So now today the demand is for object-oriented programming. We use structured programming but not in a big way. But when you are working on real problems, you have to deal all the problems with object-oriented programming only. So in Python programming, we will be focusing more on OOPS concept. That is object-oriented programming concept. I'm going to tell you what is the difference between structured programming and object-oriented programming. See now, I will write one program in C, then you will understand the difference. So let me just simply write one program. I don't have a C compiler in my system now. So you know this, stdio.h. Standard input output.h. You remember I have void main. I'll say comma b comma sum. So declaring three variables. What are the three variables? A, B, and sum. Whose value keeps on changing. So what I will do, I will say the value of A as 10 and the value of B as 20. Okay. Now what I will do, I will say sum is equal to add of int x comma int y. Okay, then I will say int z is equal to x plus y. I'll say return z. If you are not understanding, don't worry. I'll tell you line by line how it works. Maybe now you'll be a little confused. Return z, and I will close this function. Then I will close the main program. So what I'll do here is I will say printf sum is percentage comma then sum. I'll tell you. That is where I'm going to explain you now. Okay, we will go line by line now. This is called a header file, stdio.h. It is called standard input output.h. Okay. Now, why do we use this file? Because I'm using printf statement. Correct? No. Printf is for printing in C. Scanf is for inputting in C. So that printf and scanf, if it has to work, I should have this file stdio.h. Every program will have a main function, main method we say. Program execution begins from there. Where does the program execution begin? From the main method. So what I am doing is I am having two variables. One is called A, which is equal to 10, and second one is called B, which is equal to 20. And I have one more variable called sum, where I am not declaring any value. If you want, I'll declare it as 0. Now what I am doing is I am using a statement called printf. What I am doing, printf sum is percentage d, and what I am doing, I am calling this function called sum. This is add. I'm calling this function called add. Now what is happening here? Now when I call this function called add, it will basically come to this function. So what I am having in this function, I am having two variables. One is x and one is y. Now this x and y should receive the value. So what I have to do in this add function is I will give a comma b. See now what is happening? I am calling a function called add. When I am calling the function called add, I am passing the value of a and I am passing the value of b. So this means this becomes add of 10 comma 20. So here when it comes to add, I have int x and int y. So that means this 10 and 20 comes to this function called add. Somebody should accept those values. So x will accept the value of a and y will accept the value of b. Now, this is the opening of the function and this is the closing of the function. Within this, I have one more variable called z. So what I am doing in z is, I am telling z is equal to x plus y. So what will be the value of z? Z is equal to x plus y. X is 10, y is 20. So 10 plus 20 becomes 30. So the value of z will become equal to 30. Now I'm telling return the value of z. So what will happen? It will return the value of Z. So where it will return it to this function here. And the 30 will be printed. And the 30 will be printed. What are you trying to do is, you are trying to create one small function which is basically adding two numbers. So in structured programming, what will happen? See, now this function itself is a structure. This is one small structure. See here. I'm opening the bracket, I'm closing the bracket. From here to here, it is called as a structure. What is a structure? A structure is nothing but small module of a program. Suppose if I want to write a program to add two numbers, subtract two numbers, and multiply two numbers. So I will have one function for add, one function for subtraction, one function for multiplication. So there are three functions. Each function is called as a structure. That is why it is called as structured programming. If you want to build a house, foundation is the first structure. On that foundation, you will build the wall. Wall is the second structure. On that wall, you will put the roof. Roof is the third structure. So now foundation is one function, wall is another function, roof is another function. So dividing your problem, what was the problem? Problem was to build a house. So dividing that problem into number of functions is called as structured programming. Making one foundation is the first problem. Building the wall on the foundation is the second problem. Putting the concrete roof on the walls are the third problem. So you had three different functions. So we call it as structured programming. Programming is full of functions. Okay. Whereas object-oriented programming is full of objects. Now, if you are not understanding what is structured programming, forget it. I am not bothered about it. But concentrate on what is object-oriented programming, because in object-oriented programming also we'll have functions, but their functions are treated in a different way. They are not treated as structured programming. They are treated in a different way. So how it is treated, I will just show you. But just know that functions are there in object-oriented programming also. In object-oriented programming, there are also functions, but not like how we wrote it in C programming now. And to learn object-oriented programming, you don't have to have knowledge of C programming at all. People have that misconception. Only if I know C, I can learn C++. No, nothing. There is no relationship between C and C++. You can learn C++ without the knowledge of C. Similarly, you can learn Python without the knowledge of C++. Now we will see what is object-oriented programming. So we'll delete all these things. Now I'll give you a very simple example. You will understand what is object-oriented programming. So now object-oriented programming system examples are C++, Java, Python, R, C#, and JavaScript. Now object-oriented programming will have certain features. Now you have to just understand these features. Now just know what are these features. I will tell you one by one what are these features. First feature of object-oriented programming is called encapsulation. One sec. It's called encapsulation. This is the first feature of object-oriented programming. The second feature of object-oriented programming is called abstraction. Abstraction. The third feature of your object-oriented programming is called inheritance. And fourth feature of object-oriented programming is classes and objects. So if any programming language, whether it is C++, Java, Python, if you can work on these four features, they are called as object-oriented programming language. So in C, you don't have encapsulation. In C programming, you don't have abstraction. In C programming, you don't have inheritance. And in C programming, you don't have the concept of classes and objects. So therefore, C is not an object-oriented programming. We will only concentrate on a programming language which will have these 4 important properties. First, we shall see what are classes and objects. Then we shall see one by one what are these properties in object-oriented programming. So for that, I will give you one simple example. So this image is called as an actor. So what am I teaching you now? I am teaching you what are classes and objects. Now concentrate, okay? Now this image is called as an what? Actor. Actor is generally a noun. You all studied in college. In college, there are lecturers, correct? So a lecturer is called as an actor. HOD is there. HOD is also called as an actor. He is a noun. Principal is there. Principal is also called as an actor. He is a noun. Security is there. Security is also called as an actor. Every actor will have some actions. Every actor will have some actions. Now, if you take this actor, now whatever actor, if he is a lecturer, what actions will he have? So I'll just try to diagrammatically show you. What I'll do is I'll put one arrow like this, and I will take this shape. I'm drawing a diagram only for you. So this is a shape. I will add one text. So what is the first action that lecturer will have? He will take class. Will lecturer take class or not? We will not use the word take because the bad English. We will say handle class. All one is the same, okay? So that lecturer will handle class. So what are the other operations the lecturer will do? What's the second action he will do? He will mark attendance. Will he not handle class? Will he not mark attendance? Now, what is the another action he will do? What can the other actions a lecturer will do? That will come in handle class only. When I say handle class, it means discussing of topic, question, query clearing, all those things will come in handle class only. Apart from this, what important activity he will do? Now, so this action, I will say, he will set question paper. Okay. After setting the question paper, will he not evaluate the answer script? Very good. So what I'll do, I'll add that action also. So what he will do, he will evaluate answer script.